My name is Carl Eugene Roy, born in Victor, Colorado, October the 27th, 1942. My mother didn't get to the hospital with me, so that's why I was born in Victor. I'm from a family of 14, and I think about probably half of them is probably gone. My parents, Willie and Sylvia Roy. My dad was born in Gardner, Colorado, and he came to Canyon City. Well, they actually went to West Cliff. That's where they grew up. He came to the Cripple Creek, Victor area, I think, in 1933. And mother was already up there. They came to Elkton, Colorado, and they helped run a grocery store. And that's on the Myers side. And where mom and dad was met, I have no idea. I think Canyon City. And my dad came from a family of 7. His mother rode a donkey or a burro from Taos, New Mexico to West Silver Cliff, Colorado in 1892. Silver Cliff at the time, and I don't know how many knows this, but it almost became the capital of the state of Colorado, and the reason for that was the silver boom. However, Denver ousted out, and we did some research on that. And then dad and mom, they met, and of course half of my brothers was born down in Canyon City area, and I think the other half in Cripple Creek. And dad was a miner. He worked in the mines. He did a little bit of everything. We ran a junkyard, we had a filling station, we tore demolition. We tore down the Washington School in Victor, which was tore down in 1952. It's a shame, it was by the Catholic Church, but they didn't want to pay taxes, or they didn't want it on the tax roll, and there was no tax roll, but they wanted to create money, I guess, of having lots and something be built on it. When I went to school there were several schools in Victor in the early days. The Washington School was one that was tore down. Of course, naturally, I went to the Victor High School. And then there was the Lincoln School, which is on 3rd Street. And I think I've got pictures of all the old schools. Garfield was in Cripple Creek, but Schofield had a school also. Brothers and sisters, we all kind of separated and went our way. But however, there was only 2 in the family that finished high school. And the reason was, I guess we was kind of dumb, some of us, but we went to work. We big family, and so we went to work, and I started out pretty small, selling gold ore rocks when I was a kid. And today, I'm going to give you all a box out there, and them boxes are probably 70 years old or older. They were selling these rocks to help build a new school back then that never got off the ground. Shirley, I think, remembers it real well. And but it was $1 a specimen for a rock, and it was actually iron pyrites, but it contained gold content. And it was to help build a new school. I went to school to the first 6 grades in Victor, and then later on they moved the 7th grade and 8th grade to Cripple Creek, and they combined the schools in 1955. Now, something else we need to kind of remember is Mrs. Wing. Oh, there was no kindergarten when I went to school. My littler brother did, but I went to the 1st grade. And I went to the 1st grade, and I went to the 2nd. I passed it with flying colors. Went to the 2nd grade, and they passed a law that year that you had to be 6 years old to be in the 1st grade. So Mrs. Hines had to put me back in the 1st grade, and I never liked school from then on. But Mrs. Wing, who lived in Goldfield at the time, started the Victor Hot Lunch program. And I talked with May Wing years later, and she started that program, and then naturally later on, they started feeding everybody. You know, the government come in and helped out. But Victor High School was a wonderful place to go. We had everything there in the Victor High School you can imagine. Beautiful desk, and we had a nice science room. I later on worked there for off and on for 14 years, two school districts. And anyway, as time went on, why before then, back to my childhood kind of, we worked, and I shoveled a lot of snow off them sidewalks early in the morning when it snowed. And Harshberger, it didn't matter if the snow was an inch deep or a foot, he always paid you a silver dollar. So my dad would get us up early in the morning, all of us, and I'd fall asleep in school, by the way. So we was always kind of working, and when I was younger, I'd go up where Shirley Beach lives, and we lived in a wonderful neighborhood. We had the Blackledges, we had the Olsons, we had the Davidsons, we had the Larsons, and the Edens, and we lived in a wonderful neighborhood. But up there towards where I'm talking about, there was a woman named Sanifer. Her name was Nora, and I would go up there on a Saturday morning, and I'd get her wooden coal in, and there wasn't much money back then, but my reward was she'd give me a tangerine. And them steps, I can still see them steps going up that, I think they're still there. The house is tore down, but them steps going up, and I'd get her wooden coal in, and she'd give me a tangerine and a napkin and a glass of water, and she would have one. And I would thank her, and I'd be on my way. Well, down below there, a woman lived there, Speed Akins, and his mother, and she was Indian. And she would, I'd get her wooden coal in and stuff, and she'd pay me like $1 also, which that was a lot of money back then. We could sled ride. We could start up there by the Victor Depot, and we could take a sled at night and go clear to 3rd Street, Lorenz's house on the bottom of 3rd. And we did this at night, and we'd watch for traffic or whatever, but we could sled all the way down through there, and that was part of it. And then, of course, we used to swim in that Victor water tank once in a while, which was ice cold at the time. The Ajax mine had a water tank that water was heated, but this is before my time. But I heard some of the older guys would go up there and swim in that tank because the water was warm. And I left home actually when I was 13, went kind of out on my own. I hauled coal with Virgil Wilkinson up and down the Phantom Canyon, and he gave me $5 a day in my board and room. And then back up in later on in 1956, I guided tours at the Molly Kathleen mine for Ferguson and Kumatat, and it was called Black Diamond Gold Mining Company back then. And then in 1958, I went to Dillon, Colorado, and went to work on a tunnel. I didn't last there very long. The shaft, it was real cold in the middle of winter. But we went underground 1,200 feet, and then we went back 6.5 miles in a tunnel. And there was a guy by the name of Bob Chambers. He was on the Denver Water Board at the time, and that tunnel's called the Roberts Tunnel. And they paid real good money to move the Dillon Cemetery. And Mom and Dad was worried to death about me being around when you dig cemetery up. A lot of that, what they call a Black Plague, or supposedly still around, I don't know. But anyway, I got out of there and I came back home. And I met my wife Carolyn in Cripple Creek then, just before that. And she came out from Kansas. And they kind of not homesteaded, but they bought a place out at 4 Mile. And Alvy Dunn, her father, he was a carpenter. And he also worked at Wade Hardware Store. And he also farmed. Well, they was living in Cripple Creek then, and there was Olivia Beals, or Olivia Dunn at the time. She's passed away since then, but then there was also Vic Dunn and Janice Dunn. There was 4 of them. And I met Carolyn, and well, we got married in 1960 in Colorado Springs. And then we settled in Victor there, and I bought that little house, that little cabin, down below the railroad bed there. And it was $300 for the cabin. The payments was $10 a month. And there was some months it was a struggle to pay that $10. However, we went to the bank, and Pappy House was there. And first of all, he said, we don't lend no money on property up here. And he said, but however, if your dad will co-sign the note, and the payments are $10 a month, and the interest is 56 cents, and he said, young man, don't you forget, if you can't make the payment, you pay the 56 cents interest. Well, there was a couple months, believe it or not. Now, it sounds like it was a lot of money back then, but I went to work at the mill. Well, first at the Elkton. We tore down the Elkton ore house and gallows frame, I think. I was with Preacher Crank. Charlie Carlton gave me my job. And then I went to work at the mill after there. And I made 60 cents an hour, $4.80 a day. And back then it was a lot of, we got by on it. You know, that's all there was to it. But one time I went to work on a Saturday, I went to work on a Saturday. My shoes was kind of wore out on the side, and I worked the Saturday for overtime, and Charlie Carlton says, kid, I want you to come upstairs and try on a pair of boots. So I went upstairs, and there was $5 for a pair of engineer boots, steel-toed. And I wanted a pair, but there was just no, you know, trying to get by on what I had. So he said, try them on. So I tried the boots on, and he said, they fit? And I said, yeah, they fit well. He said, well, try them, and we'll take $2.50 out of your check. I'll let you have them for half price. So about 2 weeks went on, and Charlie Carlton called me in the office one day, and he says, how's them new boots? And I said, Charlie, they're good. I said, by the way, Golden Cycle doesn't give nothing away. How come you give me such a bargain on them boots? Well, he said, kid, they was mixed matched. One was an 8 and the other one was a 9.5. And he says, I guess you didn't notice it. And so from then on, I had to wear 2 socks because it bothered me that boot wasn't the right size.